What's going on, guys? So today I'm actually gonna explain my idea. This is only anecdotal with no sources or anything, but I'm gonna say my opinion, not logic, just using my experience on why the US road toll is so high. So you see all over the news articles, it'll say speeding kills, speed, speed, speed. And in some cases, yeah, but the problem is the highway and interstate speed limits are way too slow and the residential roads are way too fast. And the way the roads are built allows higher speeds. You have to build the road according to the speed you go. So let's say an example, you're in the middle of nowhere. I think there's some interstates like in North Dakota, South Dakota and all that can have no speed limit. You can drive as fast as you want and it's reasonable and prudent. While there's other roads where it's 30, 25 miles an hour and all that, which should be lower to 20 miles an hour where there's a lot of pedestrians. But one of the worst examples of a road that's like very, very dangerous is in Mississippi. Um, it is US 45, like that in Mississippi. Wide Interstate Lake Road, speed limit 65, but there's left-hand turns, and on top of that, there's random traffic lights spread out. And the road is wide open, so people are driving 90 miles an hour. So the mix of that, the biggest, real big problem with the fatalities, it's the traffic lights. So let's say you're going 70 miles an hour down a road. There's a light. Right as you get to the light, it changes to yellow. Right? Now you're going 70, but there's no way you can slam on your brakes and stop, so you have to go through the light. The person turning left now turns left, boom, car crash, and then you're dead. Stuff like that. And a lot of it's terribly timed traffic lights. And there's a lot of roads, instead of traffic lights, just add roundabouts. Yeah, there are crashes on roundabouts too, but you're crashing going 20 or 15 miles an hour instead of 70 to 80 miles an hour. So it's a lot safer. But there's a lot of areas where there's a super unnecessary traffic light that's no cars, no opposing traffic. And you go to these lights and they always turn yellow as you approach it, so people speed up to run the light. And I'll be honest, if I'm driving on one of those roads and I'm at a red light and there's no traffic at all, I'm not even going to wait for the light to turn green. I just go. I know it's illegal. I think there should be another law that if you're driving at night and you're at a red light and there's no traffic on either side, you can treat it as a four-way stop and go. I think that should be a law too. So you don't have to waste your time waiting at a pointless traffic light. But the big problem is a lot of those roads are 55 miles an hour. You're going 55, but every single traffic light will turn yellow right as you approach it, giving you little time to brake. And then people during that time think you're slowing down, they're gonna turn left, so that's a crash. So a lot of those is the reason why it's so dangerous. And I think by doing that, you should introduce, like, sometimes instead of left-hand turns what Michigan has is what's called Michigan lefts, which you drive a little bit down the road, there's a loop around and an acceleration ramp that brings you back on the road. Look up 8 Mile Road and you'll know what a Michigan left is. If boulevards and highways are like that, that will be a little bit safer. And then a lot of the roads are built really wide and it's 35, but people are going 50, even though I go 35 because I save lives. But the road is just way too wide. They need to narrow the roads down, lower the speed limits and all that in the residential areas. Don't time traffic lights so it turns yellow unless there's Michigan lefts. And if there is a divided highway with traffic lights, get rid of the traffic lights. Make interchanges. Make it right turn only, have Michigan lefts, and that's all. And now, the last thing I'm about to say is the speed limits on the freeways are way too slow. Let's say you're on I-80 in Nebraska. I-80 in Nebraska at 75. You could easily go as fast as you want because the road is empty. But now this is the biggest problem. The cops will pull you over, and the cops only seem to focus on speeding because I think due to the insurance companies and lobbying and all that, I'm not an expert, but they say speeding is why it kills and all that. Speeding's bad, blah, blah, that. And some extent it is. But the cops will go to the most empty stretches of highway where there's no traffic, and then that's where they pull over speeders, which is ridiculous. But there's more dangerous things like texting while driving, improper use of lanes, drunk driving. And if we get rid of the speed limits on some areas and raise the speed limits, like the speed limit on most roads outside the city should be 80, sometimes maybe even 85. And then if it's really open, 90, and then in the super open roads like in the desert, no speed limit. And people are already driving no speed, so it's not going to make the drivers drive faster. It's going to be the speed that they want to drive anyways. Like in Michigan, everyone goes 100. Not 100, they go 90. So everyone drives 90 already in Michigan. So, like, but once you implement those speed laws, now the cops can focus on worse things like drug trafficking. They can focus on like one of the most important things are people continuously driving in the left lane, and then people have to pass on the right. That is actually more dangerous than speeding because the guy passing to the right has a bigger chance of crashing, and then the guy in the left that's hogging the left lane often speeds up and acts as a traffic cop, which is reckless driving. Like, people who do that should automatically lose their license. But on a general road, you should keep to the rightmost lane unless you're passing, or there's a left lane exit. And if there's left lane exits, there will be a lower speed limit with flashing lights. And there's some areas in cities that do want to leave the speed limit 55 anyways, or 60. But in the very rural areas, I don't think a speed limit should be implemented unless it's a night. And at night, the night speed limit's 80. But the cops should really like focus on the people continuously driving in the left lane, because a lot of the times those left lane hoggers are drunk or they're on their phone. A lot of the times they're looking at their phone and not at the road. That's why the cops should focus on that, which is very dangerous. And yeah, like I drive, for example, on US 23. I'm going like 75. It's 70 miles an hour, but I am speeding a little bit. And then you'll have a guy in the left lane going 60, and then everyone passes him on the right. Or the worst type of drivers. So let's say there's two lanes. Each car's in a lane. They're both going the same exact speed, and it's slow. And then people are going like 70 in each side, even though the speed limit's in 70. And their argument is, well, I'm going the speed limit, so I can drive in whatever lane I want. Which, no, that's reckless. That's actually very reckless to think like that. It's usually the old people, the boomers. I know I'm using some ageism, but the older people really should have their license revoked, or a lot of the people should be retested, I believe. But those things are what's going to lower the road toll. In my town in Michigan, there's this road that's 2 lanes each side with a diet for turning. And the speed limit's 45, but then there will be 2 cars both driving side by side, not giving an inch for me to pass them at all, and they're going 30, 35 miles an hour, which is extremely annoying. And then you have people using that diet where they turn to pass these guys. And if I don't usually use my flashers or honk, but if you're in the left lane and you're matching speeds, I would honk and flash like a little bit. Not continuously, just a quick honk and a flash. And there are times where I'm stuck behind people like that on the freeway, and I know this is my fault and it's dangerous, but I'll literally pass on the shoulder. I don't do it a lot, but I've passed on the shoulder like once because there's a guy in both lanes going 55 and a 75, and I wanted to go 80. But that's all I wanted to say in terms of lower speed limits in residential areas, narrower roads, higher speed limits on interstates, and the cops shouldn't focus on speeding as much, more like other stuff, because it's the other kind. Well, they can focus on speeding in residential. If they focus on speeding in residential and have severe penalties for non-limited access roads, that will deter speeders. And last but not least, more roundabouts, better timed traffic lights, and that's all. Have a good one.